Hello, my name is Jenna, and welcome to my BookTube Newbie Tag video. I have gathered questions from other newbie videos that I've seen, and I've also noted how kind of awkward and unprepared most of these videos are. That is exactly how I feel right now, awkward and unprepared. So I think that I need to just dive right in and create this first video if I'm ever going to create a video. My lighting's not great and there's noise in the hallway and my dog is drinking water beside me, but if I wait for everything to come together perfectly, it's never going to happen. So here we go. Jenna's Newbie Book Tag video. Why did you start this channel? Well, I'm starting this channel because I am an English teacher who is teaching virtually, distantly, English teacher, who is teaching from a distance. And I have been spending a lot of my free time watching BookTube videos for the first time in my life. Whole new world that I knew it existed, but I didn't really want to enter it. I had seen a lot of videos that, one-off videos that seemed very kind of consumer-based, very kind of snarky, very judgmental, and I kind of lumped all of BookTube together into that kind of influencer sort of vibe. Not that we're not all influencers, but it seemed to be the number one priority over books in my mind. But somebody suggested that I watch a video by Jen Campbell, and that led me down a rabbit trail to following all sorts of booktubers who take books extremely seriously, take reading extremely seriously, think deeply, create beautiful, wonderful invitations into this aspect of their lives. And this whole world unfolded in front of me, and I got so excited and I wanted to be a part of it. So to the BookTube community who had absolutely no idea that I was silently judging you from afar based on a handful of grains from an entire beach of sand, I sincerely apologize and I ask you, can I join your ranks? I love so much of what I see here, and I have been part of a Bookstagram community for such a long time and have found so much joy in that. And I have started to see more and more and more of the people who I love and respect on Bookstagram on BookTube. And I'm craving the ability to discuss books with people who love books. I have some opportunity for that with book clubs and things, but I feel greatly diminished in my ability to do that during this whole distance thing. And I did notice that so many of the newbie videos started around March. And I wish that I had opened my mind back then. But here I am now. This is my journey, and it's the right time because it's when it's happening. What are some fun and unique things that I can bring to BookTube? I am so excited to discover that as well. I have so many fun and exciting things about me because I am a unique human, and we all are, and I love to see the different channels and how they are so incredibly unique. I mean, everybody does a book haul and everybody does a wrap up and everybody does a tag now and then, and yet none of those book hauls and none of those wrap ups and none of those tags look the same, because it's our personalities coming out. And so I am excited to discover myself what fun and unique things I will bring to BookTube. There are so many booktubers that I respect so greatly for such different reasons. And I don't want to label myself at this moment or make predictions, because I've also seen the journeys of the booktubers that I really respect kind of alter over time and find they settle into a niche or a type of video that is really unique and special for them. And I think, like, something that I tell my students all the time when they're trying to write and find their own voice, so many of them run into this feeling that they have nothing new to say. Everything that has been said has already been said better than they can say it. And I kind of have felt that about BookTube. This question hits me right there. What do I have to offer that's not already on offer out there? Myself. That's all. What are your what am I most excited for? I can't read my own writing. What am I most excited for about this channel? Well, I think I've already said that. What I'm most excited for is to have the ability to connect with people who love to talk and think about books. Why do I love reading? Why do I love reading? So I'm going to kind of lump some of these questions together. There's why do you love reading? What book or series got you into reading? Why did you start reading? What do you like to read? So all those questions feel very much the same to me. So I'm going to lump them all together into one. And I have a huge stack of books next to me that are going to help me answer all those questions. The first book, I didn't put them in order, so that's something fun and unique that I'll bring to Bookstagram, a little bit of good-natured disorganization. And a cough, apparently. So one of the very first books that I still have that got me into reading is this one right here, Nana Upstairs, Nana Downstairs by Tommy DePaulo. And this is my original weekly reader edition. My mom signed me up for the weekly reader, and I had this book delivered to me right before I started kindergarten, longer ago than I would like to say right now, and I fell in love with these books. Now, this image right here is going to be incredibly important when I show you a later book from my teenage years. I adored this book, and I read it, or I had my mom read it to me so many times that I had memorized it, and I would sit down and I would tell myself the story while looking at the pictures. This was my gateway book. The next book that was really, really influential is a gift that my dad gave me. And sadly, I don't have the original copy, but I have this book, Where the Sidewalk Ends. I mean, how many kids can say that this has played an important part in their childhood? I used to perform on our back porch poems like Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. And I still know those poems to this day. I would literally create performances of them. And if there had been YouTube at the time, I probably would have recorded and begged my parents to post those videos of me performing Where the Sidewalk Ends poems and The Velveteen Rabbit. I don't have a copy of The Velveteen Rabbit, but I created an entire play, and I made my teacher allow me and my friends to perform this play for the entire class when I was in 3rd grade. So very, very influential books in my childhood, solidified my love of learning and language, solidified my desire to make books and language come to life. Also married for me words and images. Very important. As I continued reading, there are several books that I have that were hugely influential. one of those is this one. This is my original copy. It's been through an awful lot. It's so like kind of warped that I have to crack its back before I can flip through it. It's been very loved. And it is the original, it's from the original set, and I still have the entire original set, including like dog having eaten on the spine and things like that. But this is the, look, $2.95. Why are books so expensive now? But I still have the original book, whole set, that my mom got me and read out loud to me, even though I could read to myself. And then I went on to continue reading these probably every year or so, but there were certain books that I loved to read over and over and over from the set, and this was my absolute favorite. It's not my favorite anymore. As an adult, I really love Farmer Boy the most, but we can go into that in another video. But this book in my childhood was phenomenally important to me. Again, it's another example of marrying images with words. So it felt like a big person book to me, but it still had these beautiful illustrations that enhanced my ability to create visual images in my head. And that was very important to me. The next book, you know, I went through a phase before there was Princess Diaries, long before there was Princess Diaries, there was Princess Florinda in A Royal Pain. Now, these point fiction, anybody remember that publisher? These point fiction books were my staple reading in middle and ninth grade, middle, like 7th and 8th and 9th grade. They felt like such real novels, and I do not have, this is not my original copy, but I found this on Better World Books, and this is not a paid endorsement, but Better World Books is amazing, and if you don't know about them, you totally need to know about them. But I found this on Better World Books and snapped up a copy. I didn't even know that I could ever find a copy of this, but I read it and I loved it. It was one of those books that I got from the Scholastic book like pamphlets. Like we would get those pamphlets with all the books and the bright colors, and then we'd painstakingly fill out the sheet and bring in an envelope with cash and coins. And then a month later, we would have a pile of books and posters and stickers sitting on our desk that we had ordered. I got this that way, and probably read it about 200 times in my childhood and in my preteen years. And then, of course, when the Princess Diaries books came out when I was an adult, I read them, and of course, this one remains much better in my mind. If you can find a copy of this and you love Princess Diaries, I strongly suggest. Also born during that time was my love for scary books. These are two of my original copies of some of the scary books that I absolutely loved. Now, this one is maybe considered more of a classic than this one, but Down a Dark Hallway by Lois Duncan scared the socks off of me as a preteen, but I absolutely loved it. Recently watched the movie, not so great. Book, amazing. This one I recently reread as a read aloud with a 7th grade class, and I have to tell you, it does not hold up. My childhood self, though, was totally and completely frightened by this book, and I carried that fear within me into adulthood. And so I was so excited to find another copy, or to find my copy of it, and to be able to share this for the first time, because I don't think it's still in print, to share this for the first time with some of my current day students. And we read it, and we have a lot of questions. The plot, well, we just have a lot of questions. I'll leave it at that. Another book, two books that were really adult books that I read as a preteen that influenced some important themes in my reading life now, and some important loves in my reading life now. this is my original copy, and you can see how well it's been loved, is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. I read this after finding the black and white movie and loving the black and white movie I Remember Mama. And even though they're two incredibly different stories, in my mind, they're kind of melded together. And I can never read this book without watching that movie. They both have themes of immigration. They both of immigrants, the immigrant experience. They're on two different coasts. They're two different cultures, but they both have central female figures and children growing up and trying to decide who they are, and where their loyalties lie, and fighting poverty and a system that's kind of weighted against them. So I love this book, and it's been a while since I've reread it, mostly because I'm afraid to fully open this book. I should probably just buy another copy, but also I can't bear to part with this copy. So, Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and this book, which is one of the least well-known books by Madeleine L'Engle. Madeleine L'Engle is the author of probably most well-known A Wrinkle in Time and the Time Quartet. I think it's called the Time Quartet. But A Wrinkle in Time and A Wind in the Door and all those books that go together. And then some people might know The Austins, which I absolutely loved as well. I have that series now, but it's a reality series it starts for children, and then she kind of like Harry Potter, they grow as the series goes on. And so the readership grows. But this book is a book she wrote for adults. I didn't know that when I picked it up. One day my dad brought home, you can see the corners cut off. It was in this bad a shape when I got it. But I was probably in 10th grade, and my dad came home with a bag of books that he said somebody at work was going to throw away, and would I like to look through them and pick out what I want, and then maybe there was a used bookstore, and he was like, maybe we could take them down and see if they'll give you credit for any of the others. My dad was always doing this kind of thing. And so I looked through it, and I pulled out several books, and this is one of them, The Other Side of the Sun by Madeleine L'Engle. And I pulled this out and I thought, oh, Madeleine L'Engle, I know her, she wrote A Wrinkle in Time. And I started to read it, and this is not a children's book. This is a dark book set in the South, and it has really dark imagery, and it shocked me to my innocent little soul. I loved it. I loved it. And I wanted so much more of this Gothic feel, which led me here, which is a rabbit trail that I will never stop following. The Brontes, you will hear so much about them on this channel. That's something unique that I can bring to this channel. Not that talking about the Brontes is unique, but having read over 150 books about the Brontes, I think I have a lot to bring. I adore the Brontes, and I adore their writing. This is my original copy. You can see my name I wrote in here. 1993 is when I got this copy, and I've had it ever since, and it is well loved, and it has been read over, I don't know, probably 20 times. I absolutely adore this book. I adore all the books by all the Bronte sisters, and I tolerate the poetry of the father, the cottage poems, and I tolerate the few poems that you can get your hands on by Branwell, and I tolerate their juvenilia too, which I find interesting in relation to who they are as developing writers, but not their published works. I think that their published works are the best thing that they've got, but I think their story supersedes even that. The Brontes, Jane Eyre. Remember when I told you that Tommy DePaola photo of the boy sitting in the window is going to be significant? This book starts with Jane sitting in the window. She's reading a book and she's looking out. And I made such a connections. There was such a lightning bolt of like, when I read that, my mind immediately went back to this childhood imagery of a person sitting in a window. And I thought of these windows and mirrors ideas before they were popular, but I didn't have words to think about them. And I started to, in a very limited way, because it was a different time and I had different access to information, right? But I started to think about trying to find books that didn't necessarily feature myself as the main character. And so I became very interested. My first read through, it was all about Jane, right? But my second read through, it was all about Bertha. And I started to think about the voices that weren't being used. It's a very small seed, but a very important one. Is this one. This is obviously not my original copy. In fact, my first time reading it, I got it from the library. And believe it or not, I had never heard of Jane Austen. I had never heard of Pride and Prejudice. The video, there were BBC videos, I know now, but they weren't things that would have interested me at the time. And I remember reading this and I remember laughing out loud. And I remember feeling like, why don't people know this book? Well, of course they did. But when you discover something for the first time for yourself, and I think that happens much more rarely now because of the internet and because of communication, but when you are able to discover for yourself for the first time something as enchanting as Pride and Prejudice, you feel like you have a treasure. And I still remember that feeling so deeply and so strongly. And I also still feel the shame of thinking that I was the only one who knew the joys of this author, Jane Austen. And I remember the cover of the book, it was a hardback book, and the cover had a pastoral scene on it. There weren't people or anything, and it just very blandly said, it must have been like a print for library copy. And it was just, white letters that said Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen. I don't know what made me check it out in the first place, to be quite honest, but I did. And I am forever grateful that I did. Then Winona Ryder made a movie. And I had a new obsession, The Little Women. And this is the copy. It was released on my birthday, December 17th, in a year I will not name. And I watched it about 4 times in the theater and cried every single time. This story, I know it means so much to everybody who reads it, but it means so much to me. I think that it influenced my decision to study English my first year of college, to study literature my first year of college. And Jo's story really influenced me to write. I had been writing in a journal for a million years. I had written some stories. The Anne of Green Gables books and the Emily of New Moon books were incredibly important to me too, and those both feature writing characters. But I didn't really take it seriously, and I didn't really think about it as a possibility. And Jo she says something in here about wanting to earn her living through her pen. And I thought, actually, that'd be amazing. I do not earn my living through my pen right now, but that doesn't mean that I never will. The discipline that I see in the Jo character is something I aspire to. And then I found The Age of Innocence, which I do not own a copy of. Shock and horror. But I do own a copy of Ethan Frome. It's one of those Dover editions, which I don't really like, but it's a book, right? So I do own Ethan Frome. The year that I discovered, as if, very imperialistic of me, that year that I discovered Edith Wharton, she had already existed and everybody already knew her. So the year that I got on board, I read everything I could get my hands on by her. I absolutely could not get enough Edith Wharton. I loved how different her style was from anything else I was reading. I loved her focus on class, which I hadn't really thought about before. I mean, books just really have caused me to question my own limitation in knowledge and thought. And so I am forever thankful, even now, even in the age of Google, even in the age of Siri, when I have a problem, my first thought is always, this book thinks, this book deals with that. What did this character do? Always. So in a very real and not like floofy way, not a trite way at all, books are my teachers, and they always have been, always. They teach me about myself, and they teach me about the world, and they teach me about, or they show examples to me of what I want to be and what I don't want to be. And one of the books that I think most clearly wraps up that for me is this one, Till We Have Faces. This is not the first copy that I ever read. The first copy I ever read was a library book. I had read all the Narnia books. This is by C.S. Lewis. I had read all the Narnia books, but this was a retelling of the myth of Cupid and Psyche. And I was blown away. I was blown away. If you have not read this, I strongly recommend that you do. Strongly. It is not a children's book. I will say that. Okay, so that kind of goes over books that got me into reading, when I started reading, why I love to read. And the next question is, where do I like to read? I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and so I'm always reading. So I will read while I'm walking my dog. I will read while I am doing the dishes. I will read while I'm making dinner. I will read in between classes. I will read while I am shopping. I will read at any moment of any time. I do listen to music, but 9 times out of 10, if I have earbuds in, or if I am cleaning or moving around the house, it's a book I'm listening to. So I get a lot done that way. And I speak very quickly, and I think my brain processes language pretty quickly. So I listen at a 2.0 speed to most things as well. So I can get through a lot of books really, really quickly. I also read physical copies of books when I have a longer stretch of time to sit still. Before I go to bed, I try to do about an hour of reading. On the weekends, I like to read sitting on my couch or on my patio or in a park. I used to like, before COVID and all of that, I used to like to go to a coffee shop on Saturday and Sunday mornings, get a nice big cup of coffee, and read for an hour or two. Just really, really love reading. I love being in the world of a book surrounded by noise and people. And caffeine. Okay, let's see. I'm almost done. Challenges to overcome. So I think for me, it's going to be mostly technical. Like, I definitely know that I need to fix my lighting. My apartment is very dark. There are not, it's a sweet, lovely, cute little apartment, and I love it to bits and pieces. And maybe sometime in the future, I'll give you a tour, because it's really expressive of who I am as a human being. But it's really dark. Natural light is not one of its best features. So I think that I'll need to overcome a lighting issue and editing. So I'm going to try and make like a real edited video and not just post this unedited. And I think that that's going to be a challenge for me, but I know, I'm a teacher and I believe in growth mindset, and I really think that I can do this. I have the tools that I need and the skills that I need to figure out what I don't know. Questions for my favorite booktubers. So, I mean, I have watched So for all my favorite booktubers, I would say the vast majority of my favorite booktubers are the reasons why I am able to do this in the first place, because they have already answered most of the questions that I might have in videos that they have already posted. I really learned an awful lot about editing and creating video and thinking about content from a series that Lauren Wade did. I learned an awful lot from a series that Jean at Bookish Thoughts did. I have learned so much just from watching different posts of the bloggers that I really, or the vloggers, not the bloggers, the vloggers that I really, really appreciate watching, about style and content and the nitty-gritty of the editing world. I think the thing that I took on board most clearly was to bring yourself, to bring your passion, to not worry so much, and to that if it's something that you want to do, and that if it's something that you are going to find joy in, then just do it. So I think that my biggest question now is, are you new? I think that's who I really want to talk to. Not my favorite established YouTubers who are already so awesome and have already given so much of their wisdom and experience, but to the new booktubers, just like me, like, how are you doing? And what are you learning? And let's go down this journey together. Every day a new generation of booktubers is born. This is our day.